Okay.
Got it. Hi, my name is Rosie, and we have Megan, Sammy, and Sasha. We work together as a group to outline the LaCroix case study, pages 45 through 49, Wadsworth, on regards to Tony and Kathy. Let's see here. First things first is we're going to knock out a social justice issue on this, which we as a group found that women are more likely to experience domestic violence than men do. And that would be the domestic violence portion. And then economic inequality. Individuals and families growing up in poverty are more likely to experience poverty themselves. I'll hand it over to Megan.
Thank you. So the group came up with some ethical dilemmas. One of them being 1.01, commitment to client conflicts with 1.02, self-determination. And it also, 1.01 also conflicts with 1.15, the interruption of services, because the client has a right to stop their service of treatment anytime they want. But in 1.15, it stresses the importance of our ethical responsibility of maintaining treatment until the client has completed. And then we also talked about 1.01 commitment to client again versus 1.07 privacy and confidentiality, because our commitment to our client is to maintain confidentiality, but that conflicts with 1.07 because we're mandated reporters as social workers to report abuse of a child. And I will turn it over to Sasha.
All right. And so while going through this case study, we were going over social worker roles. And so on a micro level, we know for a case manager and direct service provider, the counselors that are helping with Kathy and Tony's therapy. And then we know that the broker in this is going to be the domestic violence advocate from the shelter that was helping Kathy. And then on a meso level, we were thinking also an advocate, as well as a Department of Social Services are advocating for the family and the children on behalf of the system going on there. And the organizer is also the hospital sending out referrals for Kathy and Tony while they're going into the ER, getting, for crisis visits after getting hit. So sending referrals out for that. And then as a macro level, we're thinking of advocating for social policies on a larger scale, and also educator would be like educating policymakers to change within the communities on a larger scale, and maybe national agencies assisting with like domestic violence. And I'll turn it over to Sammy.
So now we're going to talk about some risk factors and protective factors. But I'll start with the risk factors. On the micro level, some risk factors, we have Kathy's substance use, Kathy and Tony's normalization of family violence as they both experienced that, low income and Tony's controlling behavior. Meso level, we have the unsafe neighborhood and then the social norms within that community. The macro level for risk factors, we have economic inequality, and then laws that would consider some cases low risk. And then some protective factors on the micro level, we have housing. They do have a house, access to that social worker and the ability to reach out to them whenever they feel like they need to. They have a desire to seek change. They have Kathy's advocate from the shelter. They're engaging in therapy, and then they do have their marriage as a protective factor. Meso level, they have the domestic violence shelter that's for the community, the hospital, law enforcement, and then the Department of Social Services. Macro level for protective factors, we have mandated reporting laws or laws that require hospital staffs to report to appropriate agencies. And then now Sasha will talk about some lenses.
All right, yep. So some social worker lenses. I recommended we would start with like an open mind, want to be an open concept here with making a list of concerns with this family experiencing with domestic violence and maybe that child abuse and neglect as well. And I would start with the people to environment perspective to see how the surrounding area is affecting this family. What are those influences that could be affecting this family? Especially in the beginning with Kathy and Tony, they had at first they wanted nothing to do with social services at all. They just passed it off as like, this is fine. We get this all the time. And it was frustrating. But then until a crisis happened where they showed up at the ER, that's when they started realizing that they needed some assistance there. And I'm going to pass it over to Rosie.
Yeah, that's great, Sasha. So 2 social worker theories, or maybe even 3, it would be strength-based and empowerment concepts, finding the strength to acknowledge they both need to stop the violence. Tony learning to control his emotions and not hit or abuse. Kathy, the children learning timeouts and how to control, and social worker pointing out, for instance, that he's got some, street fighting abilities and he can control those behaviors. Solution-focused model would help achieve the goal of no violence by identifying the strengths and help the client identify their self-perception. And then person-centered theory to help focus on the person and the person's struggles, not the problem. The idea that when someone becomes more aware about themselves, they can live in harmony with others. So these are just a couple of them that we chose for this particular outline. And I think, is that about a wrap, you guys? Or is there anything else you guys wanted to add? All right. Thanks so much.
I think we're good.